Mr.Giorgi Kuijt, who is Horvath actually Radisson, and Mr. Csilla Mezosi from Berlin, who is the Secretary General of the European SPA Association. Before we start, I would like to introduce myself as well. I'm Victoria Horvath. I'm the ambassador from Hungary to Georgia. But now I'm very happy to work on with the ladies and gentlemen a little bit about Georgian tourism, because that's my passion. I was working before in the private sector in tourism and also in administration as a deputy state secretary on tourism, and now I'm representing my country in your beautiful Georgia. I'm very enthusiastic actually about the Georgian tourism, and I agree that it's a land of opportunities, believe me. Before we start, let me ask you, our audience, where are you from? I would like to know who is working in the private sector. Wow, great. Is someone from think tanks or research institutes represented? Okay. Who are from abroad? Not from Georgia. Who are from this Caucasus region? Who are representing some European investment funds, companies? Thank you, thank you. So just to know more about our audience and to have a little bit more efficient conversation. Before we start, I would like to share my idea how to talk about tourism today afternoon. If you agree, I would like to start from the theory to the and go to the practice. Before we go to the practical experience of Ms. Jordi Kuijt and the opportunities which will be represented and presented by Frederic, I would like to ask Mr.Giorgi Bregadze to give us an overview about the tourism trends, data of Georgia. Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me say that it's a pleasure to sit with the honorable people here who are the real experts in this field. Today I will talk mainly about the trends and statistical data in Georgian tourism, and mainly focus with the main focus on the hospitality industry. So first, let me introduce my organization, Georgian National Tourism Administration. So what we do, the main function is marketing and promoting Georgia around the world. For this, we collect, analyze, and publish data, and also about information about trends and economic indicators. One of the main functions is supporting the private sector. Also, we emphasize the needs of the sector and bring expertise to the relevant government stakeholders. In addition, we initiate development of tourist strategy and vision in partnership with all stakeholders. So this is the structure of Georgian National Administration. So we have the head of the administration and 3 deputy heads, and each of them have 3 departments under control. And on the right, you can see my department, Research and Planning Department, which mainly concentrates on statistical data analysis. So what is the main trend during the last years? During the last 5 years, the average growth in international arrivals was approximately 40% on average. Last year, we had very good growth. And in overnight visitors, which we call tourists, we had over 28% increase, and in international arrivals, 90% increase. So as you see, this data in financial terms is translated in approximately $5 million, $5 million additional dollars. And the main sources of our international arrivals is our neighboring countries, but I should mention that this share is decreasing year by year, because like last year we had 83% coming from neighboring countries. Now it's decreased to 80%. This is the last updated information. So here are you can see 4 months, the total arrivals, which was more than 2 million. And out of these 2 million, approximately like 900,000 stays overnight. So these two indicators are the main indicators that we analyze and we use in our everyday life. However, now I should mention that from today we have some methodological changes, and instead of citizenship, on which we were basing our statistical data, from now we will base our statistical data on non-residents, which is based on UNWTO methodology. And from now, this data might change a little bit, and after this month, we will provide all the information of the updated statistical data. Hope that it will not cause any inconvenience. We will explain all the methodology, and we will explain all the concepts that will be introduced after 1 month. So these are the main trends that we have. I will just concentrate on 2 of them. The one is awareness about Georgia is increasing among the high spending segment of Gulf countries. For example, in 2017, the number of international arrivals from Gulf countries amounted to 105,000 arrivals, and most of the countries' arrivals will have the increasing trend. For example, from Saudi Arabia, we had 164% increase. From Kuwait, we had 154% increase. From Qatar, we had 77% increase, and from Bahrain, 76% increase. Also, there's a record growth in total arrivals, and it was primarily caused by tourist visits. Of course, it is good when we have the increase in international arrivals, but international arrivals consists of different categories, right? So we are mostly oriented on tourists, so on overnight visitors. So we can say that the primary cause of this increase is mainly tourists, because the total number of international travelers increased by 1,195,000, and the share of tourists in this growth was 63.4%. But before I go to the next slide, I would like to tell you some very interesting information. This data was just published by Geostat, and I could not include it in the presentation. So according to this survey, which is done quarterly by Geostat, we already know, and we were waiting for these statistics for a long time. We were waiting for 3 years, and today is the historical day, because we know a lot of information now about visitors, and it will be published very soon for the public. What is the main reason to visit Georgia? In 2017, it was rest and recreation, and it was 37%. Next comes, this is followed by visiting friends and relatives. This is 22%. It follows transit, which is 18%, then shopping, 9.5%, and professional activity is 8.2%. Also, I think it would be very interesting to say which regions are most popular for visitors. And in which regions receive most visits in Georgia. So Tbilisi is the leader here. So we have 33 international visits in Georgia. Ajara comes next, which receives 20% of all international visits. Then comes Pamukkale, Tsetantianeti, Samtsojalaketi, Kakheti, Imereti, and other regions. And one of the main indicators that we have is expenditure. The main indicator is average expenditure per visit, right? So this number is 928 lari. So, and in total, during the 2017 year, during the last year, the total expenditure was over 6 billion lari. And out of this money, the most amount was spent on food and drink, which is 24% of the total expenditures. It follows by accommodation units, which is 22%, and it follows by other categories. If there will be any question, I can mention this. So next is the domestic visitors. What is the main purpose by domestic visitors? It's 50 visiting friends and relatives is the main purpose for most of the domestic visitors. And in this case, of course, Tbilisi is the most popular city to visit. But if we look at the holiday, leisure, recreation segment, then Seta-Tianeti becomes the most popular region. Which is the most popular segment, who is traveling in Georgia. It's holiday, leisure, and recreation from 25 to 34 years. Now the economic indicators. So as I mentioned, last year we had over 500 million increase in dollars. So it reached over $2.7 billion as a receipts, and the share of tourism in total GDP is approximately 6.9%. Now accommodation units. So in case of accommodation units, in our database, we have over 2,000 accommodation units with a total number of 67,000 beds. And out of the share of brand hotels in the total number of rooms is approximately 13%. So here we can see that Tbilisi is the leader in terms of bed capacity, and this is followed by Ajara region. And brand hotels has only 13%, and others is 87%. What about occupancy rate? The source of this data is STR Global, which we receive monthly. So on average, occupancy rate was 62% in 2017, and most occupied periods were July, August, and September. And as we can see, we have percentage increase in all the months during the last year. And these are the information about the pipeline of confirmed projects. So during the next years, we are expected that over 220 accommodation units will be built, which will supply over 22,700 beds. These are the main trends on the accommodation market. For example, in Tbilisi is the leader in terms of growth of number of beds. The largest number of brand hotels are located in Tbilisi and Batumi. The number of international brand hotels is increasing substantially. The number of nights booked in accommodation units through Airbnb is increasing in Georgia. So here we have the information about the aviation market. We can see that we have increase in all international airports. And now let me speak briefly about tourist strategy of Georgia. So our vision is based on three main topics. So we will concentrate more on quality rather than on quantity. It will be premier year-round destination, and the quality will be guaranteed in Georgia. Also, we acknowledge that investments are necessary in infrastructure, education, and marketing in order to achieve these goals. And to achieve this goals, we have 8 strategic objectives with 50 priority actions. And these are the strategical goals. As I mentioned, these strategic goals are 8 of them. I will not list them, just I will mention that by 2025, our target is to achieve 11 million international arrivals and to increase, for example, average length of stay till 7 days, and also to concentrate on higher segments, and this will logically decrease the number of arrivals from neighboring countries. So these are the guiding principles during the implementation, so it should be market driven. Also, we will prioritize markets to attract more high spending visitors. We are based our strategy on whole of government approach, because all of the government organizations should be involved in this process, because tourism is multi-sectoral discipline, and this is necessary to achieve the real goals and real results. And it should, of course, be focused on sustainability, because tourism also has some negative effects, and we should take this into consideration when we will speak about the high volume of international arrivals. And we will extend Georgia's culture of hospitality to the business of hospitality. And let me say a few words about our last year. It was very successful. We spent over 18 million in marketing expenses and received over 2.75 billion USD. And this was achieved through these marketing campaigns. We are trying to differentiate our marketing campaigns. Every year we find the new source for this. For example, we had winter online marketing campaigns on 19 target markets, summer online marketing campaigns on 14 target markets. We also involved in this process TripAdvisor and Expedia. However, in competitiveness report, we are still, we rank 70th, but I hope that next year this number will decrease. I would like to analyze this indicator with the focus on hospitality. So as we see, we have mostly improvement in most of the indicators. For example, property rights, we were 85, now we are 43. Number of days to deal with construction permits, we were 11, and now we are second. Construction permits cost, 11, now we are 5th in the world. Hotel price index, here we have problems. We were 55, and now we are 60. And hotel rooms per 100 population, we were 78, and now we are 55. I hope that the pipeline that I mentioned will really improve the situation, and also the introduction of new hotels on the market logically will decrease the price on the accommodation market. Just a few words about our infrastructural project. We concentrate more on small, I'll finish soon. And also enhancement of service quality for the purpose of stimulating domestic tourism. We have different projects. I can speak about if there will be some questions. Convention and Exhibition Bureau, we introduced it 2 years ago, and it proved to be very successful. It concentrates on MICE tourism and events that are planned, and this we can discuss later also. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is the tourism the fastest growing sector now in Georgia?
Yes, I think so. We can say this, that if we look at GDP and if we look at growth of tourism, value added, we can say that tourism is one of the most growing industries in Georgia.
Maybe I missed the information, but may I ask, what is the average stay of tourists in Georgia?
Average stay of tourists is not, I haven't received the latest data that was published yesterday. However, based on the statistical data from Interior Affairs, it's approximately 4 nights average stay.
So let me congratulate for that and also these very impressive numbers and for the vision as well. Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you. For the next, I would like to ask Ms. Csilla Mezosi, who is representing ESPA, the European Spa Association. Was before responsible for selling Hungary in the Central European market. And I'm very proud to have her here because the way how looks sustainable development and tourism product is a little bit different what we have already in Georgia. But for this product, what she will explain us, we have everything here in Georgia. It could be maybe a chance to increase the stay of guests, increase the stay of spending as well, an idea for Georgia. So please, Csilla.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the invitation. So thank you very much for the invitation to Georgia, and I would like to say also congratulations for the lobby, because you have on the most important international level Georgian person who represents World Tourism Organization. Definitely it's going to be a big help also for the administration and generally in tourism sector for you. Yeah, let's talk about spa tourism, and maybe it's not the correct way how we have to make the definition, because I prefer the word head tourism, because it makes much more product or includes much more services. To be honest, I worked more than 20 years in head tourism, but I did not get that much information about your huge historical tradition, and also that you had a lot of different places in the country, different natural resources. So it was lack of knowledge, or maybe it's also lack of marketing. Let's see finally what you can move on in some years to be much more known also about this kind of attraction. The European Spa Association has 20 member countries. They have a spa tradition, and they have head tourism, thermal water, natural remedies. Of course, Scandinavian countries, or some countries, they don't have thermal water, they're not interested to be part of the European Spa Association. 20 countries, on quite small continent, but many different phases of spa culture, how they implement the treatments, completely different financial system paid by the health insurances, also different way of treatment. So I would say 20 countries, but a minimum 5-6 different phases only in this small continent. As I have seen some places in these few days in Georgia, I would say definitely you would be a different color on the map. You have also somehow different services and treatments. So what we do understand, or what we try to promote if we talk about health tourism, definitely we put in the window shop the brand or something which is international known, and everybody or most of the international markets or visitors, they know what is related with this. So that's why I have chosen this picture from Borjomi. So the main and the basic of every kind of development is the natural remedies. Otherwise, you can make a lot of fancy design spa resort, but then you make a copy of some other continent treatments. And because you have your own natural resources, try to use it, be proud of it, and use it much more and put it in an international campaign. Of course, we use head tourism also for just a weekend break off, or also in many cultures we use it on daily basis. So it's part of our daily life to visit a spa or a medical spa. If countries have this long tradition and this historical background, it's always more reliable to communicate the experience and the tradition. So this is definitely in case of Georgia. And where I see the main difference between, I would say, Western Europe and Georgia, it's not the luxury, but you mentioned to spend more money, to stay longer, and to have visitors that repeat the visits to Georgia. So in Europe, I would say we focus more on the big pools. You have a lot of thermal water, mineral water, and it's kind of a social life. It's not like renting a small pool or to have the treatment just for the close family and friends. In case of Hungary, I can tell you some of the spa hotels or wellness hotel, they have, this is for example a 5-star hotel, they have 20 pools. Medical spa, which is coming from the spring, thermal water, mixed water, swimming pools. And of course the sauna world and all these treatment and medical facilities or wellness and beauty. So the change of services is much, much bigger than I have seen it at the moment in Georgia visiting some units. And of course, in some countries, we try to motivate the young people to get interested in thermal water. In a way, we make the parties in the pools. But this is just an idea. It's not the main function of ESPA. If we compare it internationally, of course, Asia is very strong in health tourism. Latin America, US are coming with this whole wellness industry. But the unique point of Europe is the concept of spa destination, of health resort. And this is maybe also something where you have to focus later on, especially if you develop and you invest. It depends if this historical city has a historical spa, or the city has this historical character, or it's some very nice or fantastic natural lake or rivers or whatever, or it's high spending luxury resort with casinos and music hall and to be prepared for high spending tourists, also with the shopping street, also high end, or even on the seaside to have kind of a health resort. You can combine sea tourism and thermal tourism or health tourism if you have this kind of resources. Oh, okay. Then I'm sorry, but then I go a little bit faster. We try to focus from the European Spa Association on the quality standard, because if we talk about medical tourism, if we talk about health tourism, the word cheap or priceless, it's forbidden. Concentrate and quality, so that's why we have also our, I would say, here is the quality standards for medical wellness and also medical spas. And if you are interested, you can watch also our ESPA Innovation Award winner. It's always a good opportunity to learn from the best one. And just to go back, here, we have also an e-library. So if you have medical researches, evidence-based researches, please share with us that we can promote it also internationally. And just some words about my impression, which was made before I came to Georgia, and after these few days, I won't change everything actually. For me and for my colleagues, and I asked, Georgia sounds very exotic, and people they want to be away of mass tourism and want to see something very untouched, green, natural, with a historical base. So also with the spas and with the mineral water extradition. So please try to figure also on this kind of product, and by the message, of course you will not develop everything at one time, so you have to select for your market and for the market needs, because I would say the Russian market has a completely different needs than the Western European market. We are educated different, we have our own spa culture, so every country is used on different kind of spa facilities. Of course, on opening speech, 2 words, infrastructure and tourism was one of the highlights what to develop in the country. And I would add also the education, because especially in health tourism, where we have doctors, therapists, but also the average hotel service people, it's a little bit complicated, or more complicated. Of course, you have to make the research of the target market with which kind of product you can overlap the different products. Tourism has the big advantage of being a 4-seasonal product, and what we used to promote and the European Union lobby, it helps also for less developed rural region, so it's not concentrating for the capital city or on the coastline where all tourist sector is working already. So it helps also to less developed country, and also less educated and high educated people are needed in this kind of resort. So from the doctor to the cleaning lady, and everything has to be covered by this segment. So it's not the easiest way to develop, but definitely the 4-season. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think we will have many ideas about the spa tourism in Georgia later on, and we could discuss it. But just move forward to the practice. I would like to ask Mr. Jordi Kuijt, who is already here since 2 years, managing Radisson in Georgia, successful, and in a group who is investing in country. Please share your experience. Why do you still develop in Georgia, and what are the most selling points? The sector you are working in, so the segment you are working is a little bit different from the general tourism facilities and options in the country, because you're working in a city tourism. And also I would like to have your stories or your memories, your about this historical 2 years, because there are many things changed in Georgia.
For me, no presentation, so it's okay.
Actually, we we like this because we have it behind.
Yes, I have the pleasure of representing Radisson Hotel Group in Georgia, and based here in Tbilisi. And despite that, we already have. I don't know if you can hear me.
You can hear him? No?
No?
The microphone just goes to yes.
That's excellent. Excellent. So, the great numbers which have been presented in the first slide shows tremendous double-digit growth in arrivals of international travelers to Georgia. At the same time, it also shows a very long pipeline of new hotel developments. And since it's the investment forum, the question I get a lot, also when I arrived here 2 years ago, are you not afraid of oversupply of hotel versus demand? At the moment, although from a hotelier perspective, I should always be careful that there's not too much competition, but the market is really strong. But from an investor's point of view, of course, any international bank will be very cautious on what to invest in. But be careful. Look at the market, look at the regions, make sure that whatever hotel you develop adds value. It was also mentioned that it is expected that the average house rates will drop in Georgia. That's partly correct. It's not entirely correct because the 5-star hotels will still be the 5-star hotels. Where the difference will be, and we as a company, we do the same, we have 7 hotels in the pipeline. But those are not 7 5-star hotels. There's 2 5-star and the rest is 4, 3 and 2-star. The change in price will come because of change in more, as we call, mid-scale brands. Limited service, 2, 3-star class hotels. And that will, at the end, offer more choice to the market. From an investment point of view, there is also an advantage. The investment of a 2, 3-star hotel is obviously a little bit less than 5-star luxury with great spas, which we have here on the rooftop, by the way. In a 2-star hotel, you don't need that. Your investment is less. So your return on investment, there's no guarantee I can give you at this stage, but Georgia is ready to invest and welcome more 2 and 3-star properties. And that requires simply less investment. From a company chain perspective, I grew up in big hotel chains, literally, by the way. I've lived in hotels most of my life. What is also interesting about Georgia is that there is only a small percentage of brand hotels. And we have seen that in the Baltics, and we have seen also the development in the Baltics over the last 6, 8 years. And there has been tremendous growth in hospitality. And whether it starts with spa or history, or it matters, but every step helps. But you also need good accommodation. What attracts international travelers, and it doesn't really need to be, I'm not trying to promote Radisson here, but people trust brands. Guests trust brands, but also investors trust brands. We say no to more hotels than we say yes. We get a request, well, not every week, that's exaggerated. We get a serious request almost every month. And still we only have 7 hotels which are really going to develop. So the future is bright. I think the future is also with branded hotels if you want to really address quality international growth. And still there is always a niche market for local independent run hotels. I mean, that will never disappear. I mean, you still see very successful hotels in London which are family run, which cater for a certain niche market. So no presentation, it was just my honest hotelier's feedback on the future, and it's definitely looking bright if you look at 2, 3 and 4-star branded hotels.
Thank you. Thank you for your honest words. And now I would like to give the floor to Jean-Paul, who is presenting us ideas, opportunities, and some practical information, what to develop, in which circumstances. Thank you.
Okay, very good. So first of all, just there was a point on statistics and the importance of tourism. So services is the biggest piece of our GDP in Georgia, like in most advanced economies. It's over 60% of the share of our GDP, and the biggest growth within services is hotels and restaurants, and it's an over 10% growth that we've seen last year in that sector. So in that sense, you can say that tourism is the fastest growing. The other thing I would like to say on that as well, just is that in our balance of payment, our biggest export is tourism, and therefore it remains, from a priority of the government perspective, a very important area that we prioritize as one of our core growth opportunities. And in that context, there were a few of our strategies that were mentioned, and there's a big 2025 strategy actually on tourism that was developed with the World Bank a few years ago, which underpins all our efforts in this area. And we are this year completing as well a rehaul of our marketing for the whole tourism worldwide, which will hopefully make a very big difference as well moving forward. Okay, so I will just run you through some numbers and give you some background, and then end up with some opportunities, investment opportunities that are offered by the government, and in particular through our agency, Enterprise Georgia, who manages the investment framework of our engagement with investors. Okay, so I would like to focus on Tbilisi hotel market first, because Tbilisi remains the biggest market for hotels that we have today in Georgia. And if you look at the numbers of international arrivals through the airport, which are typically the people that are most likely to stay in a hotel in Tbilisi, there's a significant growth. So we have over 3 times growth since 2012, and nearly 50% growth last year alone. And these are very significant numbers. So I'm not going to repeat too many of the numbers that were raised from the tourism agency, but we are now at 3.5 million overnight staying arrivals, which is a very big number, and it's comparable to our population. If we look at the international brands, as Jordi rightly mentioned, the international brands are still a very small share of our hotel count. We have about 8,000 room counts in Tbilisi, and that is, to give you a sense of the growth that is happening in this industry, is a 44% growth versus 2014. So just in 3 years, we achieved 44% growth in number of hotel rooms in Tbilisi, of which international brands remain a smaller share. Let me also here add that Batumi is the second biggest market. It's not on this slide, but they have 5,000 rooms, which is also not insignificant, and they have seen even more growth, which is 100% over the last 3 years. And if you look on the right, bottom right of the slide, this is where we are expected to end up in 2020 forecast. So the share of international brands will significantly increase. As Jordi mentioned, there's a lot of projects ongoing in Tbilisi. And to give you a sense as well of how successful it is, the international upscale brands in Tbilisi have a occupancy rate of 72%, which is really one of the highest occupancy rates that can be achieved. And beyond Tbilisi, and moving on to the next slide, the regions is the new hotspot for building hotels. So there are Radisson Blue that is being built in Gudari, if I'm not incorrect. There's a Radisson Blue that is going to be built in Sinandali, if I'm not incorrect. You're correct. And there's also other brands, by the way, that are being built as well in the Kuijt region, the wine region, the mountains. And so, there is a lot of building in the pipeline. If we go to the office market, so again, Tbilisi remains the primary market in Georgia, and that's why the slide is focused on Tbilisi. It's 94% of our office space of the country is in Tbilisi. And So the three top tenants of leasing are services, banking, and of course the public sector. If you look at the prices, they have been going down in terms of the weighted average rent, and this is per square meter, by the way. But it's going in line with Eastern Europe, so it was extremely high in the past due to very lack of supply. But as supply grows, the rates are adjusting to the market. So we also see a significant growth in Class A building of offices. So we have 12,000 square meters growth in 2017, and we expect this year another 15,000 square meters of built offices in Tbilisi alone. So that's it. I also want to mention, oh, I don't have a pointer, but there are two big projects that are on the slide here. One is the King David, which is the two big towers that you see when you are on the shores of the Mkvari, and the Axis Towers, which are the two big towers that turn. So these are two of the major office building projects that are coming to fruition this year. Now my next slide is the residential market, and the residential market in a nutshell is also strong. So there's been 200 projects delivered in 2017, last year. That's around 11,000 flats, and it was a record for the last 10 years in terms of delivery of volume. In Tbilisi, this presentation is quite focused on Tbilisi as it's the main market for real estate. And the sales transactions, as you see in the bottom right here, are over $1 billion last year of residential real estate. It's a significant number. And there were around 28,000 units, slightly less, transactions. It was a 20% growth versus last year. So that's for the statistics. When we come to the opportunities, we have essentially 5 major directions for real estate investment in Georgia. The first one is at the beach. It's what we call the Sun Beach Resort, and this is essentially aligned with our tourism strategy. And these are the 5 priorities of our tourism strategy. The second one is ski and mountain resorts, and you have a number of resorts there. The spa resorts, of course, are of huge importance, and I will come to that in a moment in more detail. The regional casino cities, which are opportunities, as well as MICE, and I will also suggest a very concrete opportunity that the government is offering in MICE at the end of my presentation. So there's 3 projects here on this line. Let me quickly go through them just to give you a flavor of what is available from a government perspective. So on the left you have the Ahtala Health Resort, which is part of our spa and resorts opportunities, which is a well-known and unique non-organic mud spa with with significant medical evidence-based medical research. It's also very close to the highway, and as with all those cases, there's already a pre-feasibility study that is ready to be handed over to any investor that may be interested to start a conversation. So on the Goderzi Mountain Resort, this is part of our ski resort opportunities. We have a big piece of land that we are ready to open the discussion for privatization. This resort it's one of our emerging ski resorts, which opened in December of 2015. And it has a length of 8 kilometers, but it will continue growing. And this particular plot of land is just 200 meters from the gondola. And the great thing with this resort is that it's a year-round opportunity due to the weather conditions, and it has very high snowfall as well throughout the year, well, in the ski season. And last but not least, on the right, you have the real estate opportunity in Kutaisi, which happens to be in the center of Kutaisi. Kutaisi is the second biggest city in Georgia. And here you have 4 main buildings, which 2 are cultural heritage sites. And again, here the pre-feasibility study is ready for any person that would like to start a conversation around this. So then comes Skaltubo, which is the historically the biggest resort area for spa in Georgia. And this is a massive opportunity for many reasons. The government of Georgia has been working on developing Skaltubo for a few years, and with the intention to make it a modern, international, competitive spa and wellness resort. And it's currently 100% state-owned, but will be gradually handed over for privatization. It's in West Georgia, just half an hour drive, or 20 minutes drive from Kuijt Airport. And there are 14 sanatoriums in this complex, which is a significant area. And the outdoor infrastructure is already renovated from the World Bank. The feasibility and the master plan is done, and there are already 5 sanatoriums ready at this stage for privatization. So these are just very practical projects that are open for privatization. This is again close to the Kuijt Airport, as you see, which is the base, the regional base for the international airline Wizz Air, and has direct flights to a number of cities in Europe, including London and Milan and Dortmund. And this airport was increased in capacity this year. We will add an additional terminal, and we will also increase the rail links to Tbilisi. So this is really becoming a hub for us as well. Now, a couple of more slides. These are some of the examples of Skaltubo, of the size, to give you a size of the opportunities there. Then we also have, and this is my final slide, I believe. Yes, an opportunity of a convention center. So the 33 minutes there is misleading. If you drive from the airport to this place, it's about 5 to 10 minutes drive. So it's very close to the airport. Right behind the biggest retail center in Georgia called East Point, which hosts Carrefour, the biggest Carrefour in Georgia. And right behind there's a 10-hectare plot, which would be suitable for at least 1,000 people, and allow for a minimum of 10 meeting rooms and open areas, as well as building hotels, addressing the airport needs. And so this is a particular interest for the United Arab Emirates, because we have an increasing relationship with this part of the world, with 30 flights per week, and an ever-increasing number of tourists from this part of the world, and that could be a fantastic opportunity for MICE in general, considering the number of business activity in that area. So that is it for me, and of course I'm available for questions. And also, let me just mention that we have 2 gentlemen here from Enterprise Georgia. If you could raise your hand. If you have any questions about this presentation, these are the gentlemen to go to.
Thank you. Thank you. So thank you, Jean-Frederic. Before we give the floor to our 2 presenters, Mr. Ayşe Çikovani and Sibel Mutlu, I would like to raise 2 questions. After, maybe we can agree that Georgia is really a land of opportunities regarding to tourism. So, the country has a strategy, has a supporting economic environment and government. It is a demand not only for luxury, but more for 2-3-star hotels, has many natural resources. If you, dear colleagues, if you could make magic, what would you present to Georgia? If you could have one wish to give Georgia to have a more profitable, more sustainable and efficient tourism. Jordi? Oh, sorry. Jean-Frederic?
Well, let me say one thing that I'm afraid I have to go in a few minutes. I think if I would say and do one thing, it would certainly be more direct flights and more of them on a more continuous basis. But I have to say that the government is working hard towards this goal, and that we are opening gradually a number of direct destinations, as will happen this year, for example, with London, Barcelona, and a number of other key destinations. So if you ask me, that would be the number one key magic.
More direct flights. Jordi?
I would say that I would give Georgia high spending and responsible visitors. High spending because they would spend more and it will support the economy, and responsible because sustainable tourism is important, and also tourists have some negative effects, and their responsibility when entering Georgia and using resources here are very important. So these two factors are very important.
Jordi, what would your presence to Georgia to make it more?
I would like to, the present is to support education. So what we do not have yet in this country is traineeships. You can build 10 more universities, but that's not what we need. We need people that love hospitality, as the Georgians already do when they invite friends and family at their houses. But to start seeing it as a profession where you can make a career. When I worked in Germany, the hotels run with 30% Auszubildende, which is trainees. And they learn the job during 2 years of working in a hotel, or restaurant, or a conference center. And they are genuinely proud of the career opportunities that there are within hospitality. So my gift, I also in this hotel, same in Batumi, all the new projects, we are open for traineeships. Those do not have to be free. International traineeships, like in Germany, people get a basic pay, but we can train, educate while having a job, and then the career perspective is already much clearer for them, because many people do not yet understand. So that is what I can offer.
You wish more schools and colleagues and directors like you who is ready to cooperate in education.
Absolutely. I mean, international hotels, international hotels, and people that have also my Georgian colleagues from Ajara, they really understand because they have international experience. But I wish that everybody really opens the door to those traineeships, because there is a lot of opportunity in hospitality, but it's not so clear yet.
And let me just add to that as well that so there's a lot of support from donor organizations in that regard as well to develop TVET programs, technical vocational educational trainings in this particular field of hospitality, and that this will continue, and this is an opportunity for anybody that wants to invest as well, to build on that talent pool.
It's already there.
It's being set up, and it's increasing in importance. Yes.
Csilla, what would be your present to Georgia?
Of course, education is also education, also high tourism. It's a key factor of success, from doctors to therapists and all the other service providers. But what I miss, or what I feel it could be a big help for the Georgian tourists, go back to your roots. As you do it in the gastronomy, you use your own products, you promote the traditional way of cooking, and whenever you go in the city, you see Georgian food, and not only international food, so you don't go to the international way. You are proud to present Georgian products. That's what I miss in the spa sector. first of all, nobody believes in 10-15 minutes massage. Somebody is really educated and knows how tourism works. Secondly, if you ask for added treatment, you find Thai, Lomi, and some exotic names, but nothing compared to your tradition. I visited also Bioli, and that was the only place where I have seen their own phytotherapy. You have a lot of herbs, so I guess you have also some tradition in treatment. That would be a big step for you if you go back to your roots and you take these proud Georgian products.
Thank you. So whatever you do, remain Georgian. Before we leave, just one more question with a one-word answer I would like to ask to my colleagues. What would you the answer for a question, why to invest Georgia? Just one word. Why to invest in tourism in Georgia? Jordi?
There's a question.
Okay, who knows already the quick answer? Csilla?
The quick one is, it's only I have it almost in my mouth. It is a much better investment nowadays than buying a hotel in London, Paris, Amsterdam, Berlin. So from a risk to finance ratio, it is a very, very good choice. It is becoming a mature market. You have all the statistics available, whether it's Deloitte, STR, or any of the other
Colliers.
Yes, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Accenture. All there is enough market data available. And of course, we as hotels, we can support. It is a safe investment. Profitable, yes. Profitable is always, it is definitely profitable, but that's also a personal thing on what you consider.
The average tourist industry. Jean-Frederic?
So I would say growth, because growth has happened in the past, it continues. There's a lot of potential. If you just look at the share of GDP of tourism as a share of Georgian GDP, it's actually lower than the worldwide average. So it actually, just by getting to and assimilating to the worldwide average, which is much less than the potential that Georgia has, you still have a lot of growth to come through.
Thank you. Csilla?
Besides the very pure business figures, I would say Georgia has all the attractions that tourists need. You have the seaside, you have the mountains, you have a history, and you have mineral and thermal springs. So it's only the way how to use it.
Okay, so I will agree there's a lot of opportunities, and also there is also a lot of challenges that can be turned into opportunities. So there are a lot of problems on different markets, and that can be used for, of course, to use this for opportunities to invest, to show the high quality in the problematic fields, and to receive and to compete with the other stakeholders, other firms on the market, and this way to be to receive the highest return on the market.
Thank you. Thank you. At this point, I would like to thank you all for your cooperation. I know that you have to leave, and if you allow us for a few minutes for question and answer, if you might, you can.
Thank you.
I don't want to have you out of the room, but I know. Is there some question to the panel members now? Please.
Hello, I represent Nunisi Forest Hotel and Spa, which is the only forest hotel in Georgia. It's also a natural mineral health spa, which offers mineral water for skin diseases. And your presentation was especially interesting for us. You mentioned that Georgia is not on the list of the member countries of the European Spa Association. And I was wondering, are there any process started or negotiations to add Georgia to the list of members? And if not, is it still possible to become a member and get the assistance from the association for Georgian resorts?
Thank you very much for the question. The association is 20 years old and growing. So we would be very happy if Georgia, with this historical background and with this lot of facilities in her tourism, would join ESPA. But I'm very proud of our members. We are not politicians. Everybody works in a business. All presidents of different countries are owners or CEOs of thermal hotel changes, spa resorts, rehabilitation center, private clinic, medical tourism agencies. So it's really a networking in a very professional way. So just give me your business card and then we can exchange information.
So, hello everybody. I'm Sophie Kazer, representing Hotel Saloneti. First of all, thank you to all the presenters and for the interesting presentations and the speeches as well. I will continue the question that my colleague also asked, that unfortunately I didn't have a chance to get in more details what your association actually does, and if you could provide some information. So is this a consultancy or any other support can be provided, and as the Georgia is not listed yet in the list of the association members, so what kind of support can be, what can we expect from the association? And the next, but this is not the question actually, this is kind of remark that so the presenters were discussing the importance of the education in this field, especially in the tourism field, and the representative Mr. Kuijt, if I'm not mistaken. So you mentioned about the importance of this sector and that people do not see the opportunities in this field. So I'm interested if, especially the branded hotels like the Radisson is, do you cooperate with the public sector, like public-private partnership is very important in this field, I see, and if you do your effort, kind of also was mentioned the vocational education. Well, what do you see and how do you see your involvement in this? Thank you very much.
Well, about the education, and we are as active as possible. So we have a good relationship with the schools that are currently present. But it will still take at least 5 years for things to really develop and grow. There's also the Wash coming at the end of this week. There is the opening. It's a Swiss international school, which will definitely help, but it will not be a game changer. The game changer will really be the local hotel system, school system, hospitality system. It starts by hotels and any other hospitality business opening their doors to traineeships. In a way, we are doing it already, because when this particular hotel opened almost 9 years ago, and everybody that still works in this hotel, which is roughly 400 people, they have all been trained by the hotel. There was nothing. And as soon as a new hotel opens, we also see a lot of talent taking from our hotels. So everybody is educating each other a little bit. But it starts with also, again, the Georgian hotel community, the hospitality community, opening their doors to traineeships. It's an investment that is not only government related. It is an investment which is a joint creation with business, commercial, and government. Again, we are ready to support, but I'm sure Marriott is also ready to support. Sheraton is ready to support. Ajara Hospitality, they're ready to support. It's an invitation.
Thank you.